Are you wasting money on your brand terms? Now, this isn't a should you spend on brand or should you not spend on brand. As a blanket statement, most of the time you should be spending on your brand, protecting it. It's the last step of the journey, whether people are coming from Meta and then searching for you, or TikTok, or wherever you're advertising and they're searching for you. It does make a difference to show up and capture that traffic. But then the question is, how are you wasting money on brand? And it really comes down to how you're controlling on brand, how are you bidding on brand inside of Google Ads. So that is the biggest question we're going to address here today. And I'm going to throw out some examples here for privacy's sake. I can't show you this in a screen share, but I'm going to walk you through and just kind of replace the brand name here. A scenario stumbled upon and how we're cleaning it up. So first things first is you need to have a branded search campaign. And then, we're all e-commerce over here. So you need to have control of where your brand is going, whether you're controlling it in shopping in terms of doing like a high-low, and you're moving all your brand terms down the low, and then you're bidding separately on the low. Or if you want to have it go into a Performance Max campaign, there are scenarios where we do think that works. You have less control over it there, but there are scenarios where it's okay. Especially if you don't have a lot of brand coming in, it's fine to let it go into Performance Max. It'll do for now. But when you really have a good, strong brand presence, you have a lot of brand traffic, then you need to have it separate. You need to control it. You need to be able to control what you're bidding on it. So, because obviously you don't want to bid the same on branded terms versus non-branded terms. And that's where you need that separation. That's where you need things to be clean. And that's why it's important to have that separated out so you can bid accordingly, still get good impression share and show up as much as you would like, which for the record, I like to shoot around 90% is my happy medium. But it just depends on, how much your budget is, how much brand traffic do you have, what the goal of the company is. But let's just say for rule of thumb, I like to be around 90%. It means there's a few impressions you're not showing up for, which is fine. But you're also not overpaying for it, because that's a whole big conversation we won't get into this time. So the scenario I ran into is I had someone who had, a phrase, an exact match, and mostly exact match of their brand name. So that's great. Well, they were getting this limited by volume. And Google has this show up on the campaign level. And it's like, naturally, you don't want to be limited by volume. So what do? They added broad match. No, do not do that. For example, in the last 30 days, there was a broad match of the brand name. It spent $436. It's one keyword that was broad match. $436. Had 0 conversions and less than 10% impression share. And so I can generally say it's a Christian-based store. And they are getting terms that were devoted to Christ, love and faith, women's gifts or Christian gifts for women, Christian websites, like all kinds of keywords that are nowhere near their brand name. Like, you do not add broad of your brand name. Even for that is an example too, where it's like, since their brand name is not super unique. I mean, it technically is, but it's not super unique because it has Christian in it. So there's a lot of Christian stuff and search terms out there. So it brought in a lot of junk. So first things first, you pause those broad match ones and you really narrow it down to all the exact of your brand and maybe a phrase. Generally, that's what I like to do. And then from there, something that we've noticed is we had this company and they sell jackets, leather jackets, and they were getting people searching for them. That was brand name. Is it legit? Brand name reviews, brand name Reddit, and those kind of things where they're searching your brand, but they're not searching for your website. They're looking for information about the brand. They don't necessarily want it from you. So depending on what those CPCs are, we actually recommend excluding those. Because, like, for example, this leather jacket company, they were getting CPCs of over $10 on some of these clicks, which is just ridiculous. And it was for reviews, and Reddit were those two examples they had. So depending on what those CPCs look like, you want to exact match those that are just outlandish CPCs, exclude them from that brand campaign only. And it's fine because they're looking for information about you, but they're not looking for you. They're not looking for your website. You might have reviews on your site, but they're probably looking for a third party, whether it's Google reviews, Trustpilot, name review website, or Reddit and people's comments there. So that's another way you could say it. So phrase an exact match. Make sure you're bidding separately on brand versus non-branded terms. That's why I think they need to be clean to their own campaigns. And then from there, it depends on, there's multiple different ways to go about this. Manual CPC is the most affordable, in control way on a bidding strategy to make sure you're getting the most out of your brand and not letting it overspend. We do a lot of automated bidding for brands still. And we do a lot, everything is like conversion based for us. So we're trying to drive purchases. And for the most part, not always, we do a lot of TROAS bidding. And so we still even do TROAS bidding for brand. We can get away with that. There's multiple ways you can go about it. You can do target impression share as well. It just depends on the scenario you're in and what your goal is for showing up. Because a lot of people are also on Amazon or Etsy or other platforms, and they just want to show up knowing that people might click over to Etsy or Amazon. So they don't want to optimize for conversions and a conversion-based bidding strategy because they know they're on those other marketplaces who are also bidding on their brand. And they just want to make sure they're showing up, but that's the most important thing to them. So those are a few different scenarios, but say you're not on any of those, you just want the most profitable conversions you can get from brand, knowing that they're already looking for you and you just want that to be really profitable. Make sure you're not overspending on those. You can do TROAS bidding on those. So again, it's like, say your goal was a 2x as a company. You would want 6 or 10x or even more, 20x returns on your brand, where you don't want your brand terms to be at a 2x. So don't put, if you were to do TROAS bidding for easy, simple example, don't put a 200 TROAS. You need to have a much higher TROAS on your brand because you need to be attractive. People who are looking for your brand, only getting people who are going to convert from your brand for those companies in those scenarios who just want to focus on those conversions because they're not on any other platforms or whatever it may be. So what are the takeaways so far? Control your bidding on brand. It needs to be clean. It needs to be separate. Branded search, easy. Branded shopping, you need to either have it at a different level. You can do a high-low structure, exclude your brand terms from the high to send them to the low, and then make sure you have a different TROAS goal on the low campaign. And then all non-branded terms can go into the high. That's another way to do it. And then there is a potential option to do it Performance Max. That's not as recommended. It can be done and be fine and work perfectly well in certain scenarios. But our recommendation to control it, get the most out of it, to have its own campaign. So that's step one, bidding separately for them and different bids. So different CPC bids or different TROAS bids or TCPA bids, and make sure those are very conservative on what you're bidding. Like you don't want to be aggressive. You want to make sure you're getting good returns on those. And then I'll take a step back. Doing phrase match on maybe just the brand and then exact on the rest of the stuff. So exact on the brand, exact on brand plus product, whatever their search volume of. If it's very little search volume, then just do exact a brand or variation of the brand. Like some brands have the in the title, and some people search with the in the brand name, or they will just do the brand name. So that is the next step. So your targeting is very tight and you're controlling that. And then of the phrase match of the brand, if you have some high CPC stuff come in, exclude those in those scenarios where it's like they're searching for you, but they're just information about you, not necessarily you. And then that itself, controlling that, putting that in zone, different bidding and everything will save you a ton of money on just your brand terms. People already look for you. So those are our recommendations. Let us know if you have any questions. Happy to help if you're having different scenarios on trying to save money for your brand terms.